Hey there, this is Ray with Ray's Guide, and I thought we'd do a little talking today about the XenoThreat. They've been causing some trouble around about microtech, at one point, and so I thought I'd give you some hints about what to do if you get a call from the civilian defense forces and you want to throw in and lend your hand. The first thing you want to do is realize that everybody who's accepted that call from the CDF is working for the same pool of money, so that you don't have to worry about what you're going to earn versus what the other guy's going to earn. Everybody can just chip in and help load or unload or whatever, or fight or not. You're all just fighting for one set of money, so you can just help out folks, whether or not you're on the same group or same part or whatever. So the first thing I want to talk about is being prepared. So if you're going to be taking part in the cargo loading, the very first thing you need to be prepared with is a multi-tool with a tractor beam attachment. If you don't have that, just stop right there, go down to the refining deck and go buy one, because you're going to want that. If you're just trying to slow boat packages one across to your ship, then you're just going to get in the way of the people that know what they're doing. So get yourself a tractor beam multi-tool. You'll thank me for it. Now, also, although you may not need it, but some of you is going to be needing it, you're going to want to have a good close quarters personal weapon. This would be a gun with not too long a barrel, because you're going to be working around inside of a ship, and you don't really need a long scope, because it's going to be close quarters combat if you have it at all. And I wouldn't necessarily think you need a heavy armor, but a light armor wouldn't hurt. So go ahead and do that. Get yourself equipped with some light armor at a minimum. But don't have to spend the bank on it. So that's what you have to have personally. Now, the second thing is come with the right ship. I see a lot of people showing up for these events with just entirely the wrong ship. Now, basically, there's going to be 3 tasks. It each has their own kind of ship. So it depends on what part of the whole XenoThreat thing you're going to be doing. If you're going to be doing the cargo moving, you're going to need to have a cargo ship with a back hatch, nothing that drops down, but with a real cargo hatch at the back or the side, and it needs to be small and narrow. You don't need a big ship, because you're going to be wanting to get 2 or maybe even 3 of these backed up to the back door of the Starfarer. And so a great big wide-ass ship is just going to be getting in the way. Now, I'll tell you in a moment why you need to be able to back up 2 or 3 cargo ships to the door, but just suffice it to say you want a small ship with a hatch in the back. And that means, starting from the smallest, the ships that really work for the cargo part of this mission is, first of all, the Pisces. Yes, even a Pisces. Then the Avenger works very well. The Cutlass, particularly the Cutlass Black, because it has that nice convenient side door you can throw boxes in. The Nomad works very well. And then the narrow body freelancers. But nothing larger than the narrow body freelancers. You're just getting in the way of things. So certainly I know how much you may love your Mercury Star Runner, but leave it at home. It's too big for this job. If you got a Freelancer Max, I know you may really love it, but leave it at home. It's too big for this job. You don't need 100 to carry 20 or 30 itty-bitty packages. So you're just getting in the way. You want a small ship that you can back up to the door there. Anything else is just leave it aside. It's too big for the job. Then the second group of people are the people doing Overwatch, who are keeping the trouble away while their friends are doing the loading in and out. And there's very important to this mission. If you try to do the cargo part without somebody watching your back in a good ship, you're just going to wind up stranded and alone. So for this, you're going to want a good, solid fighter. That can be the Sabres, the Vanguard, the Hornets, Arrow, or Gladius. And you will be primarily fighting 2 kinds of opponents. The first are the genuine XenoThreat regulars, and they'll be readily identified as XenoThreat, and their ping with a XenoThreat identify friend or foe. And they'll be mostly flying arrows and Gladiuses and an occasional Valkyrie. So you need ships that can handle those things, and occasionally you'll have an Idris show up. And so the third type of ship you need is a ship that can cause trouble for an Idris. It may not have to be able to blow it up all on its own, but it has to be big enough to be taken seriously by an Idris. And so that means you got your basic heavy-hitting size 9 torpedo boats such as the Eclipse and the Retaliator bomber, particularly if you can find some friends to go in the turrets. And also, if you can put together a larger crew, a fully loaded out Hammerhead is a force to be reckoned with, as always. So that is the three main types of ships and so if your ship doesn't fit in one of those three categories, leave it at home. Leave your giant party barge at home. Leave your massive exploration ships, your carracks, leave them at home. They're just going to get in the way. If that means you don't have another kind of ship, there's plenty for you to do. Just attach yourself to someone that has the right kind of ship as a helping with the loading or helping with the turret gun, and you'll get the same reward as if you brought your giant party barge along. You'll get the same reward and actually help a lot more. So that's it. Bring the right kind of ship. Now, as to what you do when you get there, the important thing is, if you're dealing with the cargo, is to know your cargo. Now, they'll give you these fancy, mile-long scientific names, but I just basically call your cargo the greens, the yellows, and the blues. All right? The greens go bad. The yellows have to be slow-boated or they go bad. They can't go in quantum drive. And the blues, well, they're explosive. They blow up. And so, as a practical matter, you can't put both the greens and the yellows in the same boat going back to the base. The reason is that if you take the slow boat because your ship has yellows, you're going to take too long and the greens will go bad. Now, you can mix the greens and the blues together, but you got yourself a potential problem there. If the greens go bad, they're going to set off the blues, and there's going to be one great big boom, and you'll just be floating in a bunch of debris. Saw that happen once, and not only did it take out a giant Mercury star runner full of blues and greens, but it also took out the Avenger next to it that was going to be loading the yellows, and a Caterpillar that was to the other side, and I don't know what it was there for, but it took out all three ships. Boom! That was the end of it. So ideally, you always got to treat the yellows and the greens as separate ships, and ideally, just to play it safe, you'd put the blues in a separate ship as well, just so that there's nothing in that bouncing around in that cargo hold that can cause those blue things some trouble. So green, yellow, blue, try to keep them separate, but if you can't, you can put the greens and the blues together, but take care of it quickly. Another thing to point out is that the greens, the clock starts on running them out as soon as they are removed from their carrying container. So I see some guys that don't know what they're doing. They'll be taking out the greens and lining them up in a nice big row on the edge of the deck. But all they're doing is they just started the timer on those greens that much sooner. So don't take the greens out of their container until you're ready to have a ship to put them in. Yellows and the blues, you can take them out early in anticipation of a ship to carry them, but leave the greens in the case as long as possible so you don't start the clock ticking. Follow me? Now when you get back to INS Jericho, you're going to need to turn in your cargo, but you don't have to unload it. Just go to the end of all the landing pads. There'll be a archway there. You walk in, there'll be a guy that'll show you to the terminals and just check them in, and the Navy will take care of the rest of it, so that's a lot easier. Another thing is if you show up at a wreck and you're the first one there, you'll notice that the door is still closed. So you can't go in the big cargo door, and that's your clue that you may have some trouble ahead of you. So what you got to do is you got to go in the side entrance, and there may very well be a bunch of XenoThreat regulars messing around down there, getting things ready for them to steal all that good cargo. And so you may have to have a little hand-to-hand combat or close quarters combat. Fortunately, the way Starfare is laid out, there's a nice gallery around the second floor of the cargo area. So you and a buddy kind of get around each side of them, and you can clean out that lower area pretty easily. I've had some guys suggest you use grenades, but since, remember, that blue stuff is explosive, I've never tried it myself, and I wouldn't suggest you try it either. So that's the basics of how you handle the cargo operation. Now, the last thing about the cargo operation is how do you get all this cargo into your ships? And the easiest way to do this is to break your team up, break everybody up that's there into two groups. You got the pickers and the loaders. Basically, the pickers will take the stuff out of their cargo containers, bring them to the edge, and then just kind of throw them out the window. And then the loaders will either be at the edge of one dock or the edge of the other dock, or really floating anywhere between, and their job is to catch the box in the midair, swing it over, and put it into the right ship. So pickers and loaders, you'll be surprised how much cargo you can move, how quickly, if you're just working a pair of teams in pairs of pickers and loaders, possibly sometimes even two pickers for one loader. But you got to treat it as a handoff and use those handheld tractor devices, and it goes real fast. Now, if you're being in Overwatch, you're going to be dealing with two kinds of opponents. The first opponent is the XenoThreat regulars, and they'll say right in their description that XenoThreat, whatever. And most of those will be Gladiuses, Arrows, and a few Valkyries. Plus, when things get really hot, an Idris will show up and cause trouble. But in addition to those, you will see what you might call XenoThreat sympathizers show up just trying to create trouble. And then they can be troublesome because you have no idea what kind of ship they'll show up in, and they won't be trying to follow the usual XenoThreat orders and commands and objectives. They'll just be trying to create trouble for you. So they're a bit more trouble. So you got to show up, you got to coordinate. And although you can show up in a big ship, it's usually better to have enough ships that you can spread them out in case the regulars and the irregulars are coming from different directions in different places. Now, when the Idris shows up, that's a real intense time. And basically, early on, all you got to do is scare the Idris away. And that can be done either by taking out all the escorts or by taking down their shields. And they'll skedaddle for a while. But then they'll come back at the end and be real determined. But to get them to skedaddle in the early, you only need to take out all the escorts or to take down the shields. And they'll hightail it. So the easiest way to take down the shields, and this will also apply at the end when they come back real serious, is you need to have your size 9 torpedoes. But the most important thing is that they can shoot down the size 9 torpedoes at a considerable distance. So you're going to have to target them when good 8-9 kilometers away. But if you shoot then, your torpedo will just get shot down before it ever gets close to it. So you got to kind of target them when you're back there to start with, but then you got to kind of hold your bet and clench your cheeks and wait till you're about, maybe 2 or 3 kilometers out before you release and send that bird flying. And but that can be kind of tense, but that's how you really get a torpedo to land without just being shot by the turrets. And because of that, it helps, and you can shoot from a little bit further out, if you can get 2 or 3 ships to all coordinate in terms of when they release their torpedoes. Let one guy be the lead, and the other 2 guys be the follower, and then all 3 you target, and then when the lead thinks you're close enough, he lets loose, and then you let loose, and it's going to be hard for that, even for that Idris, to shoot all 3 of the torpedoes. Anyhow, those are the basics of how to do the XenoThreat assistance like a pro. Do them, and people will be looking up and saying, this guy knows what he's doing. And it'll hopefully get you through the mission with a nice big pot of reward. Stay safe, and as they all say, I'll see you around the verse. This is Ray with Ray's Guide.